Lesson 6. There is no security anymore. Too many people are thinking of security instead of opportunity. They seem to be more afraid of life than of death. James F. Barnes, Security of State Under Press, Truman. Why a chapter on security? Because security is what people want most in their lives. All the research shows that security continues to the top list of what people desire in their careers, for their families and for their futures too. The unhappy truth is that today security is slipping away or is gone for most of us, and it's going at an alarming rate. But security is a cornerstone of the American dream, isn't it? We want secure manufacturing jobs. We want secure white-collar jobs. We want secure government jobs. That's what people want. Problem is, there is no more security in that old, antiquated way of doing business. Just ask the million upon millions of employees who have been laid off from security jobs to with blue chips company during the past decade. Even in the face of the most massive layoffs since the Great Depression, people still think they can find security by working for a traditional business. It reminds me of a story. I'm sticking to my story. One night, a guy decided to drop by a local bar after work to have a drink with his friends. Everybody was having a great time, swapping stories, singing along with the jukebox, buying rounds of drinks for the table. Before he knew it, he and his friends had closed the place down. As he stumbled to his car, he could see the sun breaking over the horizon. He glanced at his watch. 6 a.m. Oh no, he thought to himself, I've done it again. My wife will kill me. I promised her no more all-night binges. 20 minutes later, he pulled into the driveway, rehearsing the excuse he thought up on the way home. As he stumbled through the front door, he looked up to see his wife waiting for him with her arm crossed. Where have you been all night? She demanded. He straightened up, looked her right in the eye, and slurred. I got home just after midnight. I didn't want to wake you, so I slept in the hammock outside. His wife glared at him and responded, Nice try. Only one problem. We took the hammock down 2 years ago. The man gave her a startled look and then blurted, Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. My friend, people who think they can have the same job security today that workers enjoyed in the 1950s are just kidding themselves. They are telling themselves a ridiculous lie and then sticking to it. In the words of the workplace consultant, Mary Lynn Pulley, the rules that people grew up and about lifetime security and employment no longer work. Let's face it, there is no security anymore. We can't turn back the clock. It's time to tell yourself the truth. Prepare yourself for the consequences and get on with your life. A brave new world. Today it takes at least 2 incomes for most Americans to achieve the standard of living our parents had with one paycheck. And even that's a stretch. People are now talking about the 3-income family as if it was normal. Things are changing so fast in our world and workplace that people who had ironclad lifelong positions with solid companies just a few short years ago are out of work today. Did you know that 30% of all Americans lost their jobs during the last 2 decades of the 20th century? That's 3 out of every 10 workers, and as globalization, outsourcing and automation continues at a galloping pace, that trend will continue for decades to come. Blue-collar workers were the first to go, replaced by automation and advanced technology. As entire industries were transformed seemingly overnight, white-collar workers were the next to feel the axe. As sophisticated computer systems replaced the whole department of clerical workers. Telephone operators are a perfect example. In the days before powerful personal computers, Ma Bell and her rival employed several 100,000 operators to handle local and long-distance calls. Today, one high-tech AT&T supervisor monitoring a souped-up software system can do the work it used to take 10,000 live operators to do. And automation will do it better, faster, and cheaper. I'm no big fan of voicemail, But voice recognition software has become so good that entire industries has, say, laying off of receptionists and service reps. Today, it's nearly impossible to get a live person on the phone when you call your credit card company, mortgage company, bank, or insurance company. Where do all those laid off workers go for employment after they kicked to the curb by automation? Starbucks or the Home Depot? If they are lucky, Walmart. If they are not, and it's gonna get worse. Trust me. Since 2001, there have been only one private sector in the US economy that had added jobs: healthcare. In 5 years since the dot-com bubble burst, healthcare has added 1.7 million jobs, the rest of the private sectors, zero. As the boomers age, healthcare will continue to add jobs, millions of them in fact. So if you want to escort senior citizens to diners at the local assisted living facility, change sheets and empty bedpans at the nursing home, then you're in the right place at the right time. Here's what Fortune magazine says about today's new economy. American factories are lean, with 12% of fewer employees than at the 1979 peak. Strong, producing 15% more stuff, and fast, increasing productivity at the torrid 3.5 annual rate. That's why economist Paul Z. Plitzer's prediction of 20% unemployment in major industrialized nations early in the 21st century isn't far-fetched. Manufacturing efficiencies are cutting workers right out of the loop. Personally, I don't predict 20% unemployment. There will always be entry-level jobs available at McDonald's and night shifts at Circle C convenience stores. I am, however, predicting 20% to 80% underemployment, as millions will be forced to take low-skilled, low-paying jobs they are overqualified for. Not a pretty picture, is it? A brief history lesson in change. Most of us can accept that certain industries are born, grow, prosper, get old, and eventually die. That's just the way it is, and it's foolish to hang on to the past and fight progress. Around the turn of the 20th century, we were a land of farmers. Nearly 90% of the population was involved in producing the food we needed as a nation. In 1930, there were 30 million farmers in the US and they fed about 100 million citizens. Fast forward 70 years to the year 2000. Guess how many farmers were working in the land as we entered the new millennium? Amazingly few. Then 300,000 farmers are needed to feed 300 million Americans, plus another 100 million people throughout the rest of the world. In only 70 years, just 1% of the farmers are producing 4 times as much food. Incredible. So what has happened to all the displaced farmers and these children? The sons and daughters of the farmers today are business owners, software programmers, chemical engineers, insurance salesmen, doctors, and lawyers, and not farmers. Why should they be? There is no security in farming anymore, and unless you inherit thousands of acres, there is little opportunity left in farming. Cut or be cut. Steel workers, auto workers, machinists, seamstresses, the jobs that our economy depended upon just a few short decades ago are disappearing fast. To stay competitive today, businesses must increase production and lower cost, and that means more machines and fewer people. Let's get real here. Industries that hang on to workers they don't really need may be looked upon as a kinder and a gentler, but not when they are forced out of business and into bankruptcy because they can't compete. It just doesn't make sense to continue to pay 3 full-time workers $30,000 a year each if they can be replaced by a machine that costs $50,000. A machine that never makes mistakes, never takes vacation, doesn't go on strike for higher wages, doesn't require a benefit package with a pension, and will never file a sexual harassment lawsuit. About the only secure job left in this country is a Supreme Court judge, cause they are appointed for life. Only trouble is, there are only 9 of them, and most of them look to be a pretty good health. Take my advice, don't wait by the phone. Get an education. Going to college, getting a good job, Providing a secure future for yourself and your family isn't what it used to be. It's a myth, isn't it? Sure, they teach you a lot in college, but none of the professors teach you how to become financially secure. It reminds me of a poem by Stephen Crane, the author of The Red Badge of Courage. I met a seer. He held in his hands the book of wisdom. Sir, I addressed him. Let me read. Child, he began. Sir, I said, think not that I am a child, for I already know much of that which you hold. I much, he smelt. He smiled, and then he opened the book and held it before me. Strange that I suddenly have grown so suddenly blind. The book of wisdom that tells you how to achieve the American dream doesn't exist in any college library. Even if it did, only a very few college students would be able to understand a word of it. The job market for college grads is bad and getting worse. Why? Demographics, plain and simple. The baby boom that created the most awesome market for goods and services the world has ever seen, that created the most massive block of college graduates, also created the most cutthroat competitive jobs market ever. That's why the clerk at the local Starbucks and the checkout girl at the local Brothers bookstore are college grads. They got a diploma, but unfortunately all the good jobs are already filled by the people with diplomas and experience. Sorry, Mr. and Miss Generation X, we are not hiring. The night shift at the nursing home down the street is hiring though. Get a job. We lost as many as 250,000 jobs in a single month, and that figure is destined to get higher and higher. That doesn't include the millions of people whose jobless benefits have run out and who've given up and quit looking for work. Are there jobs out there? Sure, lots of them. The classified ad section in a local newspaper is as thick as the yellow pages, but 90% of those jobs can be summed up in two hyphenated words: dead end, low paying. Thanks, but not thanks. The number of men and women changing jobs every year now is astonishing. It used to be that you'd get into an industry and there you'd stay till you retired. Maybe you'd make one or two changes to move up the corporate ladder. But today, employment experts expect people to have 10 to 12 different jobs in 5 to 6 different careers during their working lives. Where's the security in that? I tell you, there is no security anymore. Even the most secure jobs in the world, working for the US Postal Service, is in a jeopardy these days. Currently, the Postal Service employs more than 700,000 people, but with the advent of email and increasing competition from UPS and FedEx, the Postal Services has automated scores of back office functions, resulting in the Postal Service's goal of eliminating 13,000 jobs a year for the next 10 years. Non-traditional labor on the increase. No matter where you turn, with very, very few exceptions, there simply is no more security in the American workplace today. That's why nearly 35 million Americans, close to one-third of the workforce, are contingencies workers, including independent contractors, part-time employees, consultants, freelancers, the self-employed, and contract labor. What this tells me is that free enterprise is no longer free. Most people don't have that most American of all rights, a choice. They have to take what they can get. There is no freedom in that, and no security either. The wonderful world of owning a conventional small business. Remember what I said in the introduction? More than 90% of all the conventional small businesses fail within the first 5 years. Of the 10% that survive, very few will ever see a year 10. How many 10 years old, not franchisee businesses do you know of? The truth is that most small businesses entrepreneurs don't own their own businesses, they own their own jobs. I know from a first-hand experience. I had my own business when I was 24 years old. I got fed up working for someone else and decided to strike out on my own. Unfortunately, I quickly found out that I was like the lawyer who had himself for a client. I was working for a crazy person. I put in one frantic year of 80 plus hour work. The good news is that all my hard work paid off. I made $1 million my first full year in my new cellular phone business. The bad news is it cost me $1.2 million to earn it. Talk about an expensive education. I can hear you now. Maybe you should have gone to college, Burke. Well, I did that too. I got a college degree in criminal justice to prove it. Hey, you wouldn't happen to have a job for a prison warden in training, would you? Trust me, working as a cop or a probation officer is not the best vehicle for becoming financially independent. Franchising. Many people today turn into franchising as an alternative to start their own high rank, high risk business from scratch. To get in the franchisee business, you pay money in the form of licensing fee to a franchisor, who hands you what's called a turnkey business operations. Everything is already researched, developed, designed, and set up for you, from advertising to the proper equipment to use. You learn how to train your people, do your books, make your products, get your supplies, and so on. You just pay your money and turn the key and drive off to the sunset of success, right? Wrong. You see, there's one major problem. When you add up the cost of leasing your space, remodeling it, buying the equipment, paying for the inventory, etc., the average franchisee cost $100,000 plus just to open the doors. What's more, you got a 7 days week of 12 to 14 hours days managing a bunch of minimum wages employees, and if you're very good, after 3 to 5 years you'll break even and be able to start making a profit. Most owner-operated franchisees today provide about $50,000 to $60,000 annual income for the owners once the initial investment is all paid off. If the owner works as a manager, hire a manager, and you're lucky to break even. You can earn more if you can afford one of the bigger and better franchisees. McDonald's franchises are virtually fail-safe, but you will pay a steep price for your profits. And a McDonald's franchisees cost more than $1 billion to get off the ground. According to Jane Bryan, Quinn business columnist for Newsweek, 1/3 of all franchisees loses money, 1/3 breaks even, and 1/3 makes a profit. That means 66 out of every 100 franchisees fail to make a profit. Hey, that's better odds than playing the lottery, but that's a little consolation for you're one of the 2 out of the 3 franchisees who have to shut the doors or sell your businesses for loss. Experienced professional franchisees today will tell you that unless you are going to own a string of 5 or more successful stories, it's just not worth the hassle. Help. The simple fact is we can't depend on help from the outside. Somebody once said that hope is the expectation that something or somebody is going to come along and save you. Sorry, but Cinderellas have already claimed that fairy tale. The reality is there is no hope for most people with conventional jobs in conventional industries. The institutions of education, government, business can no longer be counted on to provide us with the opportunity to accomplish our dreams. We have to take matters into our own hands, and that what means is the simplest of term is, if it means to be, it's up to me. For things to change, you have to change. For things to get better, you have to get better. So what are you going to do? What can you do? Let's start by taking a look at your options.